Hi and welcome back. In this video we're going to take a comprehensive look at sharing and permissions. This is a very powerful and important concept in Google Drive, and it really is one of the things that distinguishes it from working in an older environment where we used to email things back and forth or put them on a flash drive or a floppy disk if you go back far enough. But the sharing makes this very useful, but it can be tricky. And there are many times when students submit projects or build sites of some type to use with their students, and if they don't get the permissions just right, when they go to use them, they find there's trouble and it doesn't work the way they expect. So we're going to spend some time looking at those permissions. To start with, I'm going to look at the permissions just on a regular old Google Doc. So this is in the native Google format. I can work on it, directly in Google Docs, etc. So the first thing is I can right-click to get my share, or I can access that from the button up here. So let's try it this way for a change. Now, this is going to bring you to what I call a simple share screen. You might not always come to this particular window. Depending on the file type you're trying to share, you may come to a different window. But this is the simple screen. And one thing that you can do at this point is you can just simply type in the email address, of the person you want to share with and decide whether that person should have edit privileges, which means they can make changes to your document, they can add, delete, etc. Whether they can simply comment on it. So when you go into Google Docs, we'll look at this in another video, but if you're not familiar, there's a section for comments that are not on the document itself, and you can have a dialogue back and forth through those comments, or simply something you want to allow people to view or to look at. So you have three options there, and let's say right now I want to be able to have them edit it. Now there's a checkbox down here to notify people, so this is going to send them an email notifying them that it's available. Otherwise, they're not going to know. I mean, I could tell them, I could send them an email myself, but this will prompt them through an email to this particular address. You have to be careful. Some of my accounts I use for sharing and work, but I don't check the email in them regularly, so you have to know who you're sharing with when you do that. If that's checked, if the notify button is checked, you can give them a personalized note instead of a standard default note that they would get otherwise. And I can simply click Send now to share it with this person with edit privileges. Also from this screen, you can click this to get a shareable link. This is something that hasn't always been here. It's a newish kind of innovation, and it has its benefits, and we'll talk about those a little later. And you also have an advanced option. So we'll look at that in a minute as well. So if I want to share this simple and fast, I simply click Send at this point. And if I wanted to give several people the same edit permissions, I could simply type in additional names. Now, if you are working in a Google Apps environment in a school district and you type in the address and hit enter, what should happen is the email address should change to the person's name. So if this was my particular domain and the person's name was Joe Smith, this would be replaced with Joe Smith, and that's kind of how I would know that I had the email address correct. Okay, but that's not going to work in all environments. And then I'm just going to click Send to share that. Or I'm going to click Cancel, so that's not what I really wanted to do. That was a mistake. Okay, let's look at this again. I'm going to go back to Share. If this particular screen does not do everything I need it to do, I can click on Advanced. Now it's the same settings as before, but I have a few more options. One is I can see that this particular document is private, so only I can access it. I am the owner, and only when I invite people will they be added to this list. So let me do this. I am not going to notify this person because it's me and I know what I'm doing. You'll notice that since it knows my name, it substituted that in there for the email address. And I'm going to give myself edit privileges. I'm not going to notify, as I said. And I have two more options at the bottom. Since I am an editor, or this person will be an editor, I can click this box and prevent editors from inviting other people or changing access levels. So in other words, now they can edit the document, but they can't adjust the sharing or change the permissions in any way. I can also disable the option to download, print, and copy for commenters and viewers. So an editor is still going to be able to do that, but someone who only has view or comment options is not going to be able to download or print. It's going to make that much more difficult for them. Let me save that. And then if I say OK, it's asking me, do I really want to skip sending this invitation to someone, because they're not going to know about it unless I tell them in some other way. And since this is just an alternate account for me, I'm going to say OK. And you can see that I'm now added. Now I could add other people and say they can only comment. So using this advanced tab, it's easier for me to manage different levels of permission. I could have done that on a simple screen, but I would have just had to go back multiple times to do it. So here I can you can see there's another account I have, and I can say this person can only comment. Okay, so we've got different people with different permissions here. If I want to change someone's permissions, yeah, this guy's okay, I can really trust them, I'm going to let them edit as well. You may have noticed that there's an additional option available now, and that's is owner. So if I've been working on a document, perhaps a project that I'm no longer going to be involved in, but I want to transfer that document to someone else and allow them to manage its upkeep and continue working with it, I can transfer ownership to them. Okay, I'm not going to do that right now, because once I transfer ownership, it's a little difficult to get it back. The other person will have to do that for you. Okay, if I decide that this person is no longer involved in a project, I can simply click the X and I've removed their permissions. I'm going to have to save the changes, so you'll watch. There'll be a message that will let you know when you have to change something. And if I return to that, I'm going to go straight through to advanced. You'll see great, everything is as it should be. Now, there is another option for sharing. Very powerful option. Right now, I am the owner and I have to explicitly give people permission as to what they can do. But if this was a document I wanted to share with the community at large, I wanted everyone in the district to be able to get it, or everyone in the world for that matter, I can change this to either anyone with the link. What this will do is if I send them the link, they can click on it and get to it, but it won't become searchable through Google. So it's not going to come up in a Google search. If I say public on the web, that means it is searchable in the Google environment. Now, it may be hard to find. It may not be the first thing that comes up, but if someone searches for it, they may find it. You can see that I am setting that access level to view, but I could change that to comment or edit, which I'm much less likely to do on a very, very public document like this. It might be fast and easy to make everyone have access to edit it, but I've really lost control of the document. Even if I'm only sending it to a couple of people to make them aware of it, the possibility of other people editing it is still there. Okay, so I'm gonna cancel that for a moment. So you can see now it is still a private document that I own, and this person can edit. And I'll say done. Now there's one more option, a very powerful option, and it really applies again to those documents I want to share quickly with just about anybody. This option, Get Shareable Link, simply turns it on and creates this link, which I would have to copy. Let's go into Share Settings and see what it did. Okay, so it brings me to this screen, which is a modified version of the simple screen. It just has this area in addition. You can see that if this was missing, this would be very much like the simple screen. And I could go on to the advanced screen, and you can see that anyone who has the link can view it. Now that's not what I had it set for before, so by making a shareable link, this was changed. It had been specific people, but you can see now that it's changed that option to anyone with the link. Let me come back into my shareable one here and go to Share Settings. And that's the basic change that it made. So if I come in here, I can just copy that link. So it copied it to my clipboard. And now I can paste it somewhere and email it to someone or post it on a website, do whatever I like. Okay, so that's how to use the shareable link. And you see that under the hood, what it really does is it changes this permission to allow anyone with the link to view it. Okay, it does not give me the option here to allow them to edit it or to comment on it, but only to view it. So if I want to change that, I can do that through this little drop down. Anyone with the link can comment. Again, pretty dangerous for a document that's basically public on the web, and certainly allowing everyone to edit it. It might be an interesting activity or interesting project to see what happens, but if you're concerned about the results, this is something you probably want to do with a private account and not with a school account. I'm going to take a look at a Google form, and the one thing you should know about a Google form is that it warns you that editors will also be able to view and delete responses. So if I give someone edit rights to this, they can go in and delete things that people have submitted through the web. Next, I'm going to make a folder. We're going to look at sharing options for folders. So again, I can right-click or I can do it here, or actually here. My preferred method is generally to come into Advanced and get more control over it. So I've typed an address. I'm not going to notify myself, and I'm going to say OK. One thing you might notice is that your options are more limited here. There is no comment option, and that's because it doesn't make sense on a folder. And sharing folders is a very powerful thing, because anything I now put in that folder, let me take this and throw it in a folder, it's going to warn me that this will pick up the exact same permissions as the folder itself. And that's what makes it such a, see, they've got edit privileges as well. And that's what makes it very powerful. The only problem is if I want to put that comment permission on the folder, I'm going to have to then come into the document and do it because the folder can't handle it. Okay, one more thing I'd like to look at with sharing, and I'm going to switch to another account to do that. So we'll pause the video for just a second. Okay, I've logged into another account that's actually a Google Apps account, and the reason for this is I want to show you that the share options can be slightly different. When I go to change here, right now it's private and it all looks the same, but if I go to change here, I have additional options. And those additional options are these two, which allow me to share with anyone in my domain, my apps group, that has the link, or to make it searchable to anyone in that apps group. And that works only because they need to be logged in to make it work.